Hello and welcome to the Brick Tech Guy channel. My name is Zaphod Beeblebrox and I'm coming to you from the deepest, darkest part of South Carolina. Yes, very sinister. Anyway, this channel is mostly about technology, a little bit about survivalism, and one thing you'll realise about me is I'm a cheap ass. I do everything economically. If I can do it cheaper, I will. I'll probably get criticised for appearing on video in a worn out shirt and a worn out hat, but I don't care, because it's not costing me money. I'm saving money. Anyway, first thing I'm going to do for this video, because I'm going to talk about all kinds of things and some of things are going to be completely off the wall. First thing I'm going to talk about is my current project. And the current project is a survival radio. Now what is that? Imagine you're out hiking, you're in the middle of the tundra, the wilderness, wherever, miles from civilization, and something happens. You have an emergency and you need to be rescued. Okay. What do you do? Pull out your cell phone? Afraid not. Cell phone won't work. Okay. What about one of those funky little satellite radios? Satellite rescue radios. No, that's just a biz. Except the satellites aren't working. Why is that? Well, those wonderful northern lights you've been watching, there's solar energy hitting the earth. Suppose there's been a solar storm and the earth has been bombarded with more solar radiation than normal, giving hence absolutely fantastic northern and southern lights. Well, that'll, like as not, have knocked out all the satellites. This kind of thing has happened. Do you remember, well, if you're old enough, and I am, you'll remember 1990 or thereabouts, when the entire Canadian electrical grid got knocked out by a solar storm. Sun fired off a bunch of plasma, came shooting towards the earth. Round about half an hour later, it hit the earth, slammed their electrical grid into the ground, and they had lots of fun. Also damaged a few satellites, but that wasn't as big as the biggest solar storm. We're probably overdue for another one. The biggest, look it up, the Carrington event. Now that was a solar storm. That destroyed a lot of telegraph equipment. And this is probably about 1900 or thereabouts. So 100 years and 100 years plus, something like that. And it can happen again. It's overdue to happen again. So you're out with this trendy, funky, expensive satellite phone, screaming for help. Nobody answers. There are no satellites. You're stuffed. Literally stuffed. Nobody will come to help. You're going to get eaten by bears. You will not survive. And that's where my radio comes in. my plan is for a shortwave radio. Now I've got various different shortwave radios I can put in, or radio transmitters I can put in. I'm playing around with several different ones, trying to work out one with the lowest power consumption. I've got the QRP Pixie, I've got the S Pixie. Both of those are excellent little radios. They will receive and transmit, but we're not interested in receiving. There's the Michigan Mighty Mite, which is, I've got one under construction. Then there's the 10-minute transmitter. Now somebody else built one of those, and the big complaint about that is it blows up the transistors. The problem will probably be resolved by putting a different transistor that has a heat sink in. And they were running out of 12 volts, whereas I'll run this one off 9 volts. So the power will be a little bit less, but the range will be about the same. And what will happen now, the radio will be made up of 2 to 3 parts. The first part is the radio transmitter. That's going to be that's the one I'm working on at the moment. The second part is the Morse code generator. Now I thought of all kinds of funky things you could do, like messages you could type in and whatnot, but keep it simple. Just broadcast an SOS every 5 minutes for about 10 seconds, and then have done. Let them find you by triangulation. That's easy enough, and that's well practiced. They've been finding people by radio triangulation for 100 years. They haven't suddenly forgotten it because they've got GPS. Anyway, so the other component is a microcontroller. I'm quite partial to the Raspberry Pi Pico, and this is a Raspberry Pi Pico together with some electronics. Now the electronics are a little bit of a pain to get because since Radio Shack went bust, and that was their own fault. Since they went bust, there's been no way to walk, no shops to walk into to buy electronic parts. So it means you've got to buy parts in bulk, just buy random selections of parts in bulk online from various different places, eBay, Amazon, wherever the hell. And so I've used, on this, I've added a buzzer, a resistor and a transistor. Now the buzzer runs off runs off the 3 volt supply. Yes, I've got a 9 volt battery. That's voltage is controlled by a buck converter up there. That came with the motherboard, breadboard. And what this will all do, this will broadcast a message in Morse code. I had lots of fun writing the software for that. There were several very interesting things that I totally missed out. And if you heard that in the background, that was the mail van going past. Yes, I live out in the country where there is absolutely no noise apart from the neighbour's meth lab blowing up from time to time, or a still blowing up from time to time. I did say we're in deepest, darkest South Carolina. So, this is what my Morse code sounds like. It's very slow because it has to be available for even amateurs to understand. So that is my test sample of Morse code. I've actually programmed that to blast out the words of the American Second Amendment. And that will take probably about 2 minutes to transmit the whole lot, and I'm not going to sit here for 2 minutes and just let you listen to 2 minutes of fairly boring beep 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 beep. No. So that is the Morse code generator. I have ordered a pair of solar panels. They have a ridiculous arrival date of July, but they are 5 volt 250 mAh. Now that should power this perfectly, because the Raspberry Pi uses maybe 100 mAh and the transmitter will use maybe 150 mAh. Absolutely perfect. Now the thing will be not have a single battery in it. It will be a little box like that. When you want to use it, you unreel the aerial and hang that off a tree, then open the box and the 2 solar panels are facing the sun, just like that, and that's when it starts transmitting. So it will transmit for as long as there is sunlight. It won't transmit in the dark, but then on the other hand, who is going to look for you in the dark? I do not know a single search and rescue place that will look for anybody in the dark, because they can't see anything in the dark. So we've got the germ of an idea here. It's all coming together, and I'll have a demonstration version of this whole kit fairly soon. I have further plans after this for other things. Now this I might just open source, and if people want to build it commercially, I'll offer them a license. I don't care. I'll sell them well, give them a cheap license to do it. I do not plan to make myself rich off other people's backs. I'd much rather be comfortably off and do the things I love. Anyway, that's about it for now, and I'll talk to you all again.